if you are kind and honest with people and you do what you say and you work hard, that goes a long way for them being satisfied with the final product and you getting future work. And that has served me really well over the years.
I'm Junaid Ahmed, host of Hacks and Hobbies podcast and a digital presence advisor at HumbleZone. This episode is brought to you by Home Studio Mastery. I launched a consultation and course program to help podcasters and course creators to create a space in their homes that will reduce the friction of creating content and appearing their best when showing up on camera. The pandemic gave us a lot of issues, but this one is here to stay. We're now so much closer to our audience thanks to video becoming more popular and affordable. I help guide folks who want to create Hollywood-worthy studios to not only capture great content, but also build more confidence, more authority, and be more comfortable in front of the camera. If I can do it, you can too. And with my help, you can do it faster. So if you'd like to learn more, visit homestudiomastery.com and how you too can create a home studio that brings out your personality, professionalism, and possibilities. Thank you for tuning in to Hacks and Hobbies with your host, Junaid. We're visited by our amazing guests coming from all walks of life who want to learn their story, their struggles, and their journey on how they got to where they are today. So stick around. Welcome to the show. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Rich Marks, a talented and experienced muralist and artist. With almost 2 decades in the industry, Rich has honed his skills and created stunning large-scale paintings and murals for a variety of high-profile clients. Despite never originally intending to become a full-time muralist, Rich has succeeded through networking and helping others. He's here today to share his experiences and offer advice on how to turn your artistic passion into a full-time career. Rich, thank you so much for jumping on and being a guest here on the podcast.
Hey, you're welcome. I appreciate you having me.
So Rich, tell us a version of your journey that no one's heard of before, or a journey into how did you even become or, come to this place where you create these beautiful murals all over the United States.
Okay. Well, I've always been able to draw, and that was something I was skilled at from as long as I can remember. I would draw when I was 5, and people would say, "Oh, that's really good for your age." And of course, your parents are supportive of you. But I think that really helped me early on to continue along that line with support I got from them. And so I was always known for that in school. That was kind of my identity, was Rich can draw. Let's have Rich draw this or Rich draw that. And it was kind of my way to fit in. I mean, you know how it is in school growing up. You're just always trying to find a way to fit in and find your place. So that was always mine and served me well. And then, as high school came, I was really good at art. Then I was like maybe one of the top kids in my school in art. Loved art, took like almost my senior year was almost all art classes. And then came the time to, when I graduated, to decide whether I wanted to go to college or not. And that was a tough one for me because my parents, even though they were supportive, always had heard that you're a starving artist, you're a struggling artist. It's going to be a tough road. Mm-hmm. And I had a lot of people in my ear saying, well, maybe you shouldn't go that route. It might be too tough. You're going to spend a lot of money. You might not make it. So maybe you should pick something along the lines of commercial art, somewhere in there, which I did. I ended up doing that and started a course. It was a bachelor's degree through the Colorado Institute of Art. And it was called commercial art back then. I don't think they call it that now. But I went in there and after about a year, because this was a 2-year course, I realized I'm not really liking this. I don't really dig typography and all these other things that you had to know and the marketing. And I just wanted to paint.
Mm-hmm.
And so I ended up dropping out of school. And that was a bad decision because then I started doing, jobs like pizza delivery boy, sort of working in this bakery for a while, making French bread. And so did that for 5 or 6 years. But all the time I would still draw, still paint.
Yeah.
Then I realized, I can't, this is not how I'm wired. This is not satisfying me. It's not what I want to do. And then about this time, computers were coming on the scene. This was like 1991.
Yeah.
And I decided, you know what? I'm going to go back to school, this time do an associate's degree and take a desktop publishing course, which I did. Through that course, I met one of my professors, and she said, or actually, she ended up like 6 months into the course. She took a job up in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. That's where I'm from, is Colorado. And she said, when you graduate, I will bring you up. And I was thinking, oh man, that would be so cool, but will she really do that?
Mm-hmm.
And she did. When I graduated, she brought me up, and I started as a paste up boy. Back in those days, it wasn't where everything was totally computerized yet. They were transitioning, and this was an ad agency in Steamboat Springs, and they did magazine publication design. And so I was this grunt worker, entry level paste up boy, but I was so happy because I was like, my foot's finally in the door. Yeah. I'm not doing these jobs I shouldn't be doing. I'm doing a job in the art world. And so that went really well. I wasn't making a lot of money, though. I did side jobs. I was a projectionist at a movie theater and also shoveled snow off roofs on the weekend because Steamboat Springs gets like 300 inches of snow a year.
To get so much.
Yeah, they do. So it was like I really was enjoying it. But in that whole thing, I was feeling imposter syndrome really bad because this also wasn't like what I set out to do. I just knew computers were here to stay. I saw the writing on the wall, and I knew I better get some computer skills. But during all of that, I was thinking, man, these people that I'm working with are award-winning designers. This magazine had won tons of awards. They're working with, photographers like Annie Leibovitz and John Fielder and all these really top-notch photographers. And I'm like, oh man, I'm just like this grunt guy. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm kind of faking it till I make it type situation. But I did finally come into my own and finally get comfortable. And then the professor that brought me up, Lori, she ended up leaving. And this was like maybe 4 or 5 years into it. And so the publisher came to me and he said, would you like to take over creative director? And I was feeling like immediately was like, yes, I want to do it. I didn't tell him. I told him I needed to think about this. But then inside I was struggling with, oh man, okay, you were faking it already till you made it. And now they want you to be creative director. Do you even have the skills to manage people and photographers and the whole magazine? And I was thinking, I don't know. I don't think I can. But then the other stronger voice was saying, you have to take this opportunity. This is like a once in a lifetime thing. Don't let this pass you by because they'll go to the next guy.
Yeah.
So I did decide to do that. And it was kind of scary at first. I think I was struggling mostly with how to organize the people and the personalities and everything that goes with that, because we had a crew of people and I had to coordinate photographers for jobs. And then I had to work with clients. So all that's a lot of balls in the air that you're juggling. But again, I was able to settle into it, make it my own. We ended up winning like 3 more Maggie Awards under my leadership, which is like what you're shooting for. That's like the Academy Award of Magazine Design.
Yeah.
And I was finally felt, yes, I can do it. If my peers and the profession is recognizing what we're doing, I can do this. So that got me going. And then just a network of people I would meet through all of that with the advertisers and the photographers and the clients. It was just really good. And so I rode that train for, almost the next 10, 11 years. And then the company got bought by a huge magazine company out of Portland. and they cleaned house and I got laid off. So that was like, oh man, this is another turning point in my career. Probably the biggest. Yes. Yeah. It was like, okay, this is all I've known. Now, remember, this is, I went into school, got the job in the magazine right away. And this is all I've known for the past 18 years or so, is doing these magazines. And suddenly I'm like canned and I got to figure out what I'm going to do. So this was kind of a crisis situation for me and a big time pivotal moment in my career where I was either going to try to keep doing magazine design, which I did at first. And I ended up with this other smaller publication and that just didn't work and they went under, or I could start painting again.
Yeah.
So my wife and I were like, oh man, we got to find a way to make this work. So we sold our condo in Steamboat and that gave us the revenue for me to be able to start moving into the painting world and trying to develop clients through that. Yeah. And that was really hard. Then I was thinking back to the times where everyone was telling me, oh, you're going to be a struggling artist. It's going to be hard. You're going to be starving. And I was at that point in time, because here I was starting from scratch, trying to build this clientele that I didn't have. But fortunately, through the networking I did at the magazine, I still had some connections here and there, which ended up giving me jobs. It ended up giving me not only painting jobs, but logo designs, brochure design, all these things that I was designing at the ad agency, I was now doing on my own. And so I started Richard L. Marks Studios, which is still my company today. And I decided I would really diversify myself and do not only computer design, but painting, large format painting. And then finally I started doing murals just by chance. Somebody had asked me to do one and I did one and they liked it, and somebody else saw it and they liked it and they hired me. And I was thinking, this is a lucrative field here, that more lucrative than doing graphic design and or canvas paintings, at least for me. I know some people make a lot of money with their canvas paintings, but I was just starting out again from square one and I wasn't one of those. So my son at this point was telling me about a site that he knew called Thumbtack, and that I should throw my work on that. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. I think I mentioned that to you before. And so I thought, what's to lose? It doesn't cost. You create a profile, you throw all your pictures up there, you write up a little blurb about yourself, and then people who are looking for muralists or artists will go there, see your profile, and then request a bid. And it's at that point that you are charged like $15 to put in a bid, whatever the project is. And I started getting a lot of work from that, and that started really working for me. I also was decided I would join findamuralist.com, which I don't believe they're even in existence anymore.
Wow.
But it was through that I got a client that kind of launched me into this whole mural world big time, which was Cabela's. And they, if you've ever been to a Cabela store, they do these murals everywhere with these like museum dioramas in front of them. And so I started doing that. And the beauty of that one, though, was they did all of their murals on canvas. And fortunately, I had a big enough garage where I could do all of them in my garage and then just ship them to the stores.
Nice.
And then I would make 2 site visits per project to help them install and then paint onto the wall little areas that it didn't quite fill.
So fill it in,
Yeah, so that I did several of those all over North America. I actually did one up in Barrie, Ontario as well. And I realized I'm really loving this. I'm loving painting large scale. Again, the money was really good and I'm making connections. And this is, a really high-end client that everybody knows. And so kept doing that. And again, this is like a pattern for me. Somebody else took over art direction of the company. And again, they decided not to use me and move in another direction with somebody that they knew.
So of course, everybody brings their own people.
They do every time, right? And so I was thinking, oh my goodness, what am I going to do now? That was a big blow to my ego. because you go through things in your mind like, I just not good enough
Yeah.
like the rest of those guys? Or was it strictly a situation where they wanted to use their friend? You wrestle with that in your mind.
Yeah.
And so I came to the conclusion, it doesn't matter what it was. I've got to get back on the horse and I got to figure out how to get another client like that. So I decided I would cold call Bass Pro Shops because they did the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they were the competitor of Cabela's at the time. Now Bass Pro Shop has bought Cabela's. And they said, we like what you did. They looked at my samples. They said, yeah, we'll give you a shot. So right away, they sent me to Sacramento and I did a store there. And then I got sent up to Vancouver Island. And then they sent me back out to San Jose. And this was all going really good and loved it. But then that kind of dropped off because I think they had filled up all of the stores they had decided to do.
Sure.
And I came in at the tail end of that. But during all this thing, it was my mural work through Thumbtack on the side was taking off as well. So I was doing murals full time by that time.
Yeah.
And it was at that moment that this was maybe 2015, I believe, or 2016. I got approached by another company, and they were called Animal Artistry. And this happened through a friend of mine who he got the connection, and he said, I do not want to travel. My wife doesn't like me to travel. Will you head up this project and be lead muralist in Scottsdale, Arizona? Just so happened we had moved down here a year before to Phoenix area, which is not that far from Scottsdale. And I said, oh man, I will totally be lead muralist on this job. This is a great opportunity. This is a company that does trophy rooms for big game hunters. I don't know if you're familiar with that whole world, but it's,
not at all. There's a whole huge world of everything. Like everything you're talking about is like, wow, like, wow, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that this world even exists. I knew nothing about it. And I didn't even know that people were still doing that kind of thing where they were going out big game hunting. It's like Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom in my mind, that show that used to be on TV. But they still do. And this ended up being a really high-end client that I'm not allowed to mention.
Of course.
But this was my first, it was like on the verge of a six-figure job, just that one job. And to me, I had never made that much money before in my life. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking, I cannot do the absolute best I can do and blow this opportunity. So I did. The client loved it. I ended up bringing on another guy with me on that job. His name is Mural Joe. He's got a YouTube channel that does really well, or not a channel, but he's on YouTube and he has a lot of subscribers and he's a really good muralist. So I thought, I talked with him before about murals. I thought he's a perfect guy to bring aboard. We could do this together. We have similar styles. And we knocked it out of the park. And then the owner of the company said, do you want to be my full-time muralist? And I was like, yes, I would love to be your full-time muralist. Didn't have to give that a second thought.
Yeah.
And so been kind of doing that for them ever since. And then unfortunately, Mike, the owner, has passed away. He passed away last year.
Sorry.
Yeah. But since then, one of their competitors, Monarch Taxidermy, had contacted me. And so now I'm doing work for them also. And then he had brought on a third taxidermy client that I'm doing work for as well. So I've got three pretty good size contracts going with these companies they're world leaders in what they're doing. They're like top notch as far as taxidermy and habitat. They could go in and do a museum if they needed to.
Wow.
And sometimes they do actually. So yeah.
Dude, that is quite a journey. I heard all the different things you had to go through, and I got to reminiscence, like when I did desktop publication, when I did logo design, when I did stuff like that. Because I don't think we're that far apart, but I don't know. I mean, I got into this back in the 90s as well, and designing and building computers. So it's a lot of fun, lots of growth. But I love how you continued on that vein, on going back to painting, right? That's something that you love to do, kept you motivated because you found the right audience for it. And it's all about who's the audience, who's willing to pay for the art that they're going to keep in their stores or in their place for however long they would want to. How long do these murals last that they get these custom built?
Typical, it depends if it's exterior or interior, but typically, I mean, you're talking 10 years, as long as something major doesn't happen, like
Yeah.
it gets gouged or run into. Exteriors probably closer to 5 to 8 years before it may need a recoat,
Okay.
especially the reds and oranges, they fade more than any other color.
Yeah.
But they have a fairly good shelf life,
No,
8 to 10 years.
that's a pretty amazing shelf life for sure, for something
Yeah.
that represents the brand, or the passion, or I mean, it's literally their passion that they're showing off. I mean, you're sitting in front of a beautiful mural of Mario and Luigi from Nintendo's game
Super Mario Bros.
Super Mario Brothers. It's really cool. And I got to hear, your motivation, what kept you motivated, what kept you going back. And it's so true, once you do get started in one industry or another industry, you start to build those connections. You start to build and connect with people that appreciate that kind of artwork. And that's what I keep telling people. Just get started. You're going to find the people that's going to pay the price that you're worth when you continue to do that work. And platforms like Thumbtack and Fiverr and Upwork are an excellent space for anybody to showcase their artwork, their skill set, because people are always looking for an expert. Like, for example, I am looking for somebody who can help organize my workshop because I'm not good at it.
Yeah.
It's really cool that these platforms are available.
Yeah, it is. One thing that just came to mind that I did leave out in that whole journey was in the transition time between when I was just a worker at the magazines before I became creative director. I teamed up with one of our photographers who had a lot of sports connections, and I started this sports lithograph business. Can't believe I left that out of the story. That's a pretty big cog. But we started doing that for a while, and this was during the boom of the sports collectible industry, which was early 90s to mid 90s. At the bottom fell out in the late 90s.
Yeah.
So we got in on the tail end of that, and I was able to also, you just made me think about with the connection part, I was able to connect with a lot of athletes and pro teams through my sports art. What I would do is I do a painting, and then we do a limited edition run of lithographs, and then the athlete would sign it, I would sign it, and then we would market them through the team's season ticket holders.
Nice.
And that did well for 4 years, 4 years. And then again, the bottom fell out of the collectible world, and then that company tanked. And so I kept continuing on. So I have been familiar with starting stuff maybe not sustaining and working, and then having to restart. But I think all of that has made me more tenacious, not afraid to fail, because I've gotten back on the horse and been successful again.
Yeah.
So I've been very fortunate and blessed with that. Every time that's happened, something new has come along. It's like forced the door for me to go into another area.
It's amazing. They say, when one door closes, a lot of other windows open, and people start seeing your worth, and they open the door for you. I love it.
Such a cliche, but true. So true. And another thing I've noticed through this whole journey is if you are kind and honest with people, and you do what you say, and you work hard, that goes a long way for them being satisfied with the final product and you getting future work. And that has served me really well over the years in my networking.
Man, I love that. Thank you so much for that tip. All right, we're going to take a quick break. And when we get back, Rich is going to share 3 hacks to take away that you can implement in your business, in your life. I'm Junaid Ahmed, host of Hacks and Hobbies podcast and a digital presence advisor at HumbleZone. This episode is brought to you by Home Studio Mastery. I launched a consultation and course program to help podcasters and course creators to create a space in their homes that will reduce the friction of creating content and appearing their best when showing up on camera. The pandemic gave us a lot of issues, but this one is here to stay. We're now so much closer to our audience thanks to video becoming more popular and affordable. I help guide folks who want to create Hollywood-worthy studios to not only capture great content, but also build more confidence, more authority, and be more comfortable in front of the camera. If I can do it, you can too. And with my help, you can do it faster. So if you'd like to learn more, visit homestudiomastery.com and how you too can create a home studio that brings out your personality, professionalism, and possibilities. Hey guys, welcome back. We've been speaking with Rich Marks, and he is an amazing muralist and artist, and he's got 3 hacks to share with you.
Okay, my number 1 hack, if you are a muralist in the US, and I think it might even be starting in Canada, is get on Thumbtack. You heard me mention that in my story of, how I came to where I am now. But that is such a good platform to just put your stuff out. You don't have to bid on a job unless you want it. But I've gotten some really good clients off of Thumbtack. And I think that maybe my percentage rate of getting those jobs is probably 1 in 5 to 7 that I bid on. But I've hit some really well-paying and really high-end clients on there because a lot of companies use Thumbtack. So number 1, get on Thumbtack. You're going to be surprised at the work that's going to come your way.
Nice. I love that.
Yeah. Number 2 is right along those lines, is become a member of Cafe, another platform that lists whatever type of job. I'm obviously in there for murals, but you could be in there for paintings, illustrations, digital drawings, whatever. And it will send you out a list of calls that happen throughout the year. And there's also, again, some really big public art jobs, murals and sculptures even, that are paid for by towns and cities and schools and colleges. And they can be extremely lucrative. But that one's, you're going against a lot of people across the nation and even the world sometimes. Sometimes it's open to the world. And you've got to be super polished, and you've got to bring your A game and have a really good samples. But you nail one of those, you're set for the year.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
And
So
number
that's
3.
another one. Number 3 is only muralists in the mural world will understand this one, but become good at the doodle method. The doodle method is a method that I learned about maybe a year or 2 years ago, where you don't need a projector. You don't need to graph something up. You just go to a wall that you're going to paint and you start doing doodles and shapes and whatever on it. And then you take a picture of that, and then on your phone or your tablet, you superimpose the picture you want on top of that, but make it transparent. And then when you're back on your wall, you can see where all your shapes are, and you know where to draw the lines of the image you want. Works really well in tight spaces and huge outside walls that you can't project. Learn the doodle method.
Wow. I love that. Dude, thank you so much for those hacks for muralists. Anybody who's trying to start in the mural world, what do they need to know, or what do they need to start off with?
That's a really good question. I always tell anybody who I'm bringing aboard to help me, because I like to collaborate with other artists. And sometimes I've done that with artists that have never done a mural, or they've only done a couple and they're just big time newbies. To number one, don't let it intimidate you, because that's the first thing that happens with somebody. They roll up on a wall, they see how huge it is, and they immediately almost like freeze and like, I can't do this. This is too huge.
Yeah.
Where do I start? How do I do this? Don't let it intimidate you, and remember that it is just another painting. It's just on a big scale, but you're going to employ all the techniques you already use anyway, just with a bigger brush.
Wow.
So don't let it intimidate you, and practice. That one sounds so simple.
Yes. But
if you don't practice, you won't get good.
That's so true. That is so true. A while ago, I saw how this one guy took a projector and projected a photo on the wall, and it was just lines, and then he started drawing. I was like, wow, this is really cool. And I wanted to try that, but I never got around to trying it. But talking to you, I just might have to do something like that in my living room. Because we have this huge wall in the living room, and my wife's like, I want to put something in there. I'm like, and I can't find the right size of painting because the wall is so wide, and I always want to, put proportional stuff on there. So maybe this might be a project for the kids.
Perfect wall for that.
Awesome, man. Well, this was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for sharing your journey and all that you've gone through, and the tips for muralists out there on how to get even better and get the good gigs that's going to set them up for the years to come. All right, man. Let's jump into these quick questions that I love to ask my guests. Number one.
The fun stuff.
The fun stuff. What is the one hobby that you wish you got into?
Oh, that one's easy for me. If I wasn't a painter, I think I would have loved to become a chef. I do love to cook, and my wife and I share the cooking duties. But I really feel that is another creative outlet, only with food.
Yeah.
And I just think I would really love that environment and that world. So if I wasn't doing this, I think I would do that.
Nice. I love
But
that.
they always say it's never too late. I could always pick it up as a side hustle, right? Chef muralist.
Absolutely. Chef muralist. There we go.
Yeah.
I love it. Next question. What did you want to be when you were a child? And that's kind of funny because we have the answer, right?
Yes, we do. I'm one of maybe the rare people that knew that I wanted to do this from an early age, because I always instinctively knew that this is how I was wired and what brought me joy. And I'm typically the type of person that can't sit still there without doing something, but in painting, I can. I can sit there in front of a wall or a canvas for 8 to 12 hours.
Wow.
And it pleases me. It's good for me. So definitely that.
I love it. I love it, man. That's so awesome. Next up, what is your favorite movie or TV show?
Oh, this one I had to give some thought, but I kept going back to the TV show Alone. Have you ever seen Alone?
I've not seen that show.
Alone is so cool to me because I like the outdoors and camping and being out. And the premise behind Alone is they take 10 survivalists and they put them in this remote location, and they try to outlast each other without any contact from anybody, and they have to film their journey.
Okay.
So the person that wins is a person that never taps out. All the other 9 will tap out and say they can't handle it. But what gets most of them, and this is why I like this show, it's not that, granted, it's hard to find food, and a lot of them are starving and losing a lot of weight. So they get pulled because their health is in jeopardy.
Yeah.
But what gets most of them is loneliness and companionship and not having another human to connect with. Isn't that crazy?
That is
That
pretty
shows you
crazy.
just how much we need human connection.
Yeah. Yeah, that's insane. And it's been going on for the past 9 years. They got 9 seasons. The show
Yeah.
alone started in 2015. Well, what's funny is that as a muralist, as an artist, and myself as somebody who loves tech, we can be alone for a very long time without having to worry about contacting people.
This is true. But even in that, when I'm on a mural job,
Yeah,
if an outside one, there's tons of people watching you all the
exactly.
time.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
if you're in a business inside, you can be alone for the whole day.
yeah.
And especially if you're in a construction situation where they've just turned you loose in that phase of the construction, you're all alone. So by that time, you're like happy to get home and talk to your wife and kids
Yeah, makes
and
sense.
have
Makes
people to
sense. I
connect
love it,
with.
man.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
next question. What movie would you choose if you got to play a character in it?
This is the toughest one for me. But I think that I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Loving Vincent. Have you seen that?
I have not.
It is, I think it came out in 2017
2017.
ish or
Mm-hmm.
so, maybe 18, but it was a movie I actually submitted samples for to try to be one of the artists they used. But
Oh, nice.
what they did was they did the life of Vincent van Gogh, and they
Mm.
did it all in his style of painting, the
Oh man,
impressionist
that's so
style that he
cool.
employed. Oh, it is so
That's
cool.
so cool.
And they used, I don't even know how many oil painters they used that were able to recreate his style. So the
Mm-hmm.
whole movie is done in that Starry Night type style. And
That is so
so, yeah,
cool.
I think I would pick that movie, and hopefully that maybe some of Vincent's talent would somehow, I would glean
Wow.
that from being in the movie
Well,
because
what's
he's my
really
favorite master.
Vincent van
Yeah,
Gogh,
go
right?
ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
No, that's really cool because a friend of mine, Glenn Zuber, who runs a church, he talks about Vincent van Gogh and he brings his painting to his service, and he's
Oh,
done
wow.
that at least 4 or 5 times that I've was there managing the tech, and it's really cool. Something that he shared with me was Dolly, which is an AI based software that can create paintings in different styles. So I was like, oh my god, let me try something. So I tried. I did a description, the end of the world in Vincent van Gogh style, and it created some really, really amazing
Whoa.
imagery.
That's a trippy combo.
Yeah, it is. It was pretty. You could see the sun, the entire. Yeah, it was pretty interesting. It was pretty intense for sure. And he was like,
Yeah,
"Dude, that's so cool."
that is super cool. And I just recently saw some of these programs that are doing the AI art. It's
It
unbelievable.
is.
I
And
can't remember the name of it, but I saw one the other day where you could take, like, it was that the girl with the earring or whatever
mhm.
painting. They took like a small sample of that, just her, and then they gave it parameters of what to do on all the other edges,
Yeah.
and they recreated this whole kitchen scene that she was
Wow.
in, and it looked exactly like the original painting, which is scary. It's like, is this
That's
going to be
amazing.
taking my job here pretty soon?
Well, Rich, what's
AI's
funny is just a few weeks ago, the Colorado Art Institute, I don't even know, but they had a competition of fine painters. And this one guy won the competition. And he used a similar program to create his painting. It was an opera in space with all the planets around. It was really well done. And then once he had this AI image created, he used another AI to enlarge it and print it on large scale
Oh,
graphic. I
wow.
was like, whoa, this is pretty intense, and all done with the AI. Of course, he spent a ton of time in
Yeah.
talking to the software and getting this painting done. But a lot of the painters, a lot of fine artists were pretty pissed at this person.
Yeah. I mean, the first thing that came to my mind was they allowed that. Was that part
Apparently
of,
they allowed
like,
that.
you could
Yeah.
do digital art, obviously, and that's what he chose.
Yeah, I mean, the digital art looked like a painting. So if
Yeah.
you, yeah, just I'll share the link
It's
with you. It's
incredible.
pretty neat.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'd like to
All
see
right,
that, but
next
it is incredible. Go
next
ahead.
question. Who's your favorite superhero?
Ooh, I'm gonna have to say Thor.
Thor
Thor
is
is so
amazing.
cool. Yeah, because I love Vikings and the whole Viking type vibe. And the fact that he's got that insane hammer that nobody else can pick up that can destroy whoever or whatever, I
Yeah.
think is pretty cool.
Yeah,
So,
I agree.
yeah, I'm going to go with Thor.
I love it, man. If you haven't seen the latest Thor Love and Thunder, you can have a kick out of it. It's pretty funny.
I have seen it.
Okay. All right. There we go.
Yes. So I did enjoy it. It wasn't my favorite of all of them.
No,
I
it
think Ragnarok
wasn't,
is my
but,
favorite
you
of
know,
all of them, but yeah.
I like to watch him because it helps me close the gap. Like, okay, I know what's happening in the story.
Yes.
I'm not left behind. But what was really cool
Yes.
is that there was a scene. No, there was no scene in there that I'm thinking about. No, I'm thinking about a different movie. But yeah, that was a fun movie to watch for sure.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah. And I go see all of the Marvel ones anyway, so
You
it
gotta,
doesn't
man.
matter.
Yeah, exactly.
You gotta.
Last question. If you were a board game, what would it be?
I would be Risk.
Hmm.
You ever played Risk?
I have played Risk. Taking over
Although
the
it takes
world.
days to finish. Yes. You take over the world. But what I love about it is how strategic you have to be. And I
True.
love strategy games and being strategic. And I mean, it's not unlike any of our professions. You got to be strategic in what you're doing and your next steps and how you're going to get to the next level. So yeah, I definitely would be Risk.
I love it, man. Rich, where can my audience find you and connect with you and check out your artwork?
The best place to find me and my most current stuff would be on Instagram, and that's rich.marks, M-A-R-K-S, on Instagram. You can also find me on Twitter. I'm richmarks7 on Twitter.
Nice.
And then LinkedIn, I'm just Richard Marks. And then on Facebook, Richard L. Marks Studios, Inc. You'll find me there.
Nice. Well, Rich, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for this time with us here on Hacks and Hobbies. We'll catch you in the next one.
Okay, I appreciate you, Junaid, for even having me on. It's been awesome.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode on Hacks and Hobbies. We absolutely appreciate your contribution. You can find additional notes on hacksandhobbies.com. Please share the podcast with your friends and tell them what you learned about our guest today.